Hello, my movie peeps. I just got done watching the latest Puss in Boots sequel, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. And with this sequel that is coming 11 years after the previous Puss in Boots solo movie, we follow our favorite feline as he's down to his last life out of his 9. Coming to terms with his own mortality, Puss in Boots will now retire until he finds out about a magic star that can grant him one wish, hopefully to give him his 9 lives back. And that's all pretty much say without giving any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. So, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, man. It is really weird to think they decided to make a sequel to the prequel movie of Puss in Boots that came out 11 years ago. Like this weekend, both Avatar: The Way of Water and Puss in Boots have something in common that they waited over a decade to put out another movie. As far as my thoughts on the first Puss in Boots movie, I remember it being just fine. I saw it when it came out in theaters with my little brother. We had a good time joking and laughing around, but I did forget about the film after like a day. I didn't think it was anything that special, and certainly not to the level of like the first 2 Shrek movies, which is the standard I would prefer my Shrek movies to stay on. So in all honesty, whenever they announced a new Puss in Boots movie, when they had already announced a couple years back that we would be getting Shrek 5, I was a little confused. I'm like, look, I like mi Antonio Banderas. I think Puss in Boots is a fun little side character, but does he really need another sequel, man? Why ain't you working on Shrek 5? And my friends, let me tell you, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has no right being as amazing as it is. I am utterly shocked at the quality of this movie. Even though Puss in Boots is not the Shrek 5 I wanted, this movie still gave me the vibes of those first 2 Shrek movies like nothing before. It takes what I love about the Shrek world and continues to explore it further, which is the thing I've always loved about Shrek, is set in this fairy tale world where a lot of familiar characters that we've known from our childhood, whether because of nursery rhymes, fairy tales, or even Disney movies, pop up in the Shrek universe, but they're not the same as you remember, you know? Some of them are a little foul-mouthed, or there's a little twist on them. When the Shrek universe plays on that aspect of the fairy tale land, I think it's pretty fun, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish does exactly that. It takes full advantage of being set in this fairy tale world, having some characters you might be familiar with, and then them tweaking them a bit to fit this Puss in Boots story. Like, we have a couple of villains in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, one of them being Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Goldilocks is actually voiced by Florence Pugh, does a great job, but I love their inclusion of the movie and just reminded me of some of that Shrek parodying that they would do. The running gag throughout the movie about, oh, too hot, too cold, just right. They're able to play that up several times in the film. And even staying true to its own story, they play up Goldilocks as a villain so well because this woman was a criminal. She entered the home of 3 bears, ate their food, slept in their beds. Like, that's some criminal activity. You also have another villain in here that's a lesser known fairy tale creature, Jack Horner, that I was not familiar with. Luckily, the movie kind of fills you in on his nursery rhyme. But he's voiced by John Mulaney, and he's absolutely hilarious. But he's a rich, spoiled brat that goes around collecting fairy tale items and then uses it to his advantage to try and get this wish from a star. And all these little items makes the movie so fun because it's like little Easter eggs from your childhood. You're like, oh my god, that's from this fairy tale, that's from this creature, that's from this. And it was those vibes I got when watching like Shrek 2, and you would see those same Easter eggs just pop up randomly. But I'm saving to talk about the best villain of this movie for last, because there is a wolf character in here that is also posing an obstacle for Puss in Boots in this movie I was not really expecting. Believe me when I say the wolf in Puss in Boots might actually give your little kids nightmares in here, and I freaking love that. The first like 10 to 15 minutes of Puss in Boots feel like a very average animated movie. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just average in the way of like, oh, this could be fun, could entertain the kids for an hour and a half. Let's just see where it goes. The moment this wolf comes on screen, there is a tonal shift. It becomes a story that even adults can relate to and has some darker themes I wasn't expecting, but I feel again is some of that maturity that sometimes the Shrek universe brought in that I felt was sorely missing in his previous solo movie. I loved everything they did with this wolf character, from the sounds he makes when he enters the room, and just the arc it gives Puss in Boots in this film. Like, there was some actual character development in this film that was really fun to follow. The movie also reintroduces Salma Hayek's character that was introduced in the first Puss in Boots movie. And again, since that movie was kind of like an afterthought to me, I didn't care one way or another that she was included in here. But they take full advantage of her. They set up a story and a history with Puss in Boots that we didn't get to see that happened in between the last movie and this movie that I thought was really well handled. It brought a lot of emotion to the table and some depth to Puss in Boots. Because I do want to say one thing about the movie that I don't think is a major spoiler, but was kind of a surprise whenever I saw it in the film. It's not treated like a big reveal or anything, it's just kind of something casual that's thrown out on the screen. The last Puss in Boots movie was a prequel. This was Puss in Boots before he met Shrek and Donkey, Fiona, all those characters, and then started interacting with them through Shrek 2 and 4. Puss in Boots The Last Wish is actually a sequel to all those other movies. There's like a small piece of information that is just randomly thrown out there that lets you know, oh, what we're watching right now is happening after the events of Shrek 4. And in my mind, I was watching the movie like, whoa, okay, I thought this was maybe another prequel, another story that happens to Puss in Boots before he meets Shrek. Why would he abandon his friends? Why wouldn't he hang out with them? And subtly throughout the movie, not very jarring, they explain maybe why Puss in Boots sees himself as a loner and left his friends. I actually really liked that character development in the movie. There's also another side character in here introduced, Perrito, and he is by far the sweetest, most heartwarming character to ever exist in the Shrek universe. This is a little dog that has gone through some really crappy stuff. Like, there's one point in the movie, this dog explains his backstory, and it is some dark humor in the movie. Again, I absolutely loved it because it was reminiscent of that Shrek humor, being a little mature, a little dark. Some things that might just fly over the heads of children, but as an adult, you're like, oh my god, this is dark. But I found myself just wanting to jump on the screen, hug this little dog, and just adopt it and take care of it, because that's what this little puppy deserves. I haven't even also begun to talk about the animation style of this movie. Now, granted, it might not be for everybody. It's a big jarring change from the Shrek animation you're used to. For me, I really enjoyed the fast-paced nature of it, the way it was choreographed, and even the cinematography in here. It very much fits the fighting style of Puss in Boots, and I didn't mind it. So I would say it's a beautifully animated movie. It's just not what you're expecting from the Shrek world. Really, I am still in utter shock with how much I ended up loving this movie. It probably is one of the best animated films of the year, and it is up there for me as being as good as the first two Shrek movies. If this kind of storytelling, character development, and animation is headed our way for Shrek 5, boy, are we in for a really good Shrek movie. Seriously, if you were someone on the fence about this movie or you thought you wouldn't care that much about a solo Puss in Boots movie, check this one out because I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. It surprised me. And like I said, there's cameos and Easter eggs in there for you to love, and even a little tease at the end for something else. I left this movie with just such the biggest smile on my face and my heart just feeling all warm inside. So for Puss in Boots The Last Wish, I'm gonna give action 4 stars. I really dug the animation style in here. There's some really cool fight scenes. The way we follow Puss in Boots when he's fighting other characters, or the way they get to have fun with some of the landscape in this movie, I thought was really well handled. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. This was a really hilarious film. So many laugh out loud moments and just that mature dark humor I've missed from the Shrek world. Drama in the film, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really love the story they played out here, the development they gave Puss in Boots, and just the emotions you're gonna feel from several different characters. Don't be surprised if you start tearing up by the end of this movie. Horror in the film, I'm gonna give it 1.5 star. This is mainly due to the wolf villain in this film. He is one badass villain, but he can also be creepy, and I can see him terrifying some young kids. Suspense the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. You know it's a kid's movie by the end of the day, but there are a couple of surprises and uncertainties for how the movie will end that I think can keep you on the edge of your seat. Casual fans of the Shrek world and Puss in Boots, I'm gonna give this an A+. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it an A-. Puss in Boots The Last Wish, man, gets the 3C guarantee. Truly one of the best animated movies of the year. I don't think you'll regret your visit to go watch Puss in Boots The Last Wish. So if you're someone who went out to see it, let me know your thoughts on it. What did you like? What didn't you like? Anything and everything. Be sure and leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.